Miss Fiona Cassidy.
Kia ora tātou, nā mai haere mai te kōrero i te wai, te tangata whenua o Bali, nā mihi ki a koutou. Nau mai, haere mai, ko Fiona Cassidy ahau. Now, today we're going to talk about soft power, so we all know what it is, right? It's when we are looking for military or economic persuasion. And we were very lucky to have Ibu here before, because I actually think she's already nailed it. You don't need to listen to us, right? Because what she talked about and what she made very clear is you need to be human-focused. So for all the technology that's going on in the world, AI won't replace us, it'll make us better. So, using technology, I asked ChatGPT, what did it think of New Zealand as a global player? Because today is about soft power. And this is what it told me. We are generally viewed very positively on the international stage. Our reputation is shaped by a combination of progressive policies, natural beauty, and diplomatic principles. We are seen as having progressive leadership. Think Jacinda Ardern. We have environmental stewardship. Remember, when you think of New Zealand, what do you think of? You think of beautiful beaches, fabulous fauna, and wonderful mountains. We talked about peace and diplomacy. In last century, I was part of a military force that went to Bougainville, and we were unarmed. Bougainville had been at war for 10 years, and we as a military force went unarmed. Today, almost 25 years later, Bougainville is no longer at war. That, ladies and gentlemen, is soft power. Now, the next thing it talked to us about was cultural heritage. Now, I don't need to tell most of you in that room about that, but in New Zealand, we've become pretty good at recognising that we were colonised. But we're allowing people like me to reinvigorate who we are as people. And then the last thing it said about us is we're really good at sport. And that's true. So then I went to ChatGPT, because, you know, it's the best thing to look at, to see what it said about in soft power. But the same things. So given that we only have a few minutes to share with you today, because we want to listen to you, I'm just going to pick on a few things which I think are fabulous examples of soft power. Now, 25 years ago, some of you young students weren't even born, New Zealand actually launched a campaign, and it was called the 100% Pure New Zealand campaign. That campaign is recognised globally as one of the best, and guess what? It's still running. Now, what it was built around was telling the world, selling the world, that down in New Zealand, we want you to come and visit us because we have beautiful beaches, we have fabulous people, and we are environmentally, we care about our environment. Now, that means, and it has grown into us being seen as doing sustainable tourism, having eco-tourism values, and also ensuring, like many nations around the world, that we look after our new unique biodiversity. So 10 years after that was launched, they launched the New Zealand Story. The New Zealand Story actually helps that campaign because what it does is it provides businesses brand New Zealand. Now, if I was to say, what do you think of New Zealand? Do you guys, when I say New Zealand, think of good beaches? Put your hands up. No. Guess what? I come from a place with 90 miles with a beach and it's totally white sand. Oh, no hotels either. And then, when I say New Zealand, do you think good water? Oh my gosh. You do? Okay. Do you guys know where New Zealand is? Alrighty, so we are actually seen as being really, really friendly. The second thing that I wanted to talk to you about in terms of sustainability is that we, like many other nations in the world, recognise that climate change is making significant changes to the world we live in. And through all of this, there are a mix of people that ensure that those voices are heard. Now, sometimes in PR, we think that we can take all of the credit for what happens, but we can't. We need to be strategic influencers and be at the top table, because actually it is a mix of the political environment, the community environment, and human voices that bring around change. But our strategic weapon is the ability to take those narratives and to make those narratives real. So the next example I would like to talk about, and it's something that we do a lot of in our world, is crisis management. And I want to talk about compassionate leadership and why in New Zealand that we are seen as being empathetic and totally connected to our communities. Now, I know that many of you know that in 2019, there was a very terrible event that happened in New Zealand where there was a shooting in Christchurch and many of our Muslim community were killed. Now, when that tragic event happened in Christchurch, our amazing Prime Minister at the time, Jacinda Ardern, was down there within hours, and the whole of New Zealand rose up to support what was an absolutely terrible event. But Jacinda didn't just let it stop there. She actually went to the world and she asked that we could do something about ensuring that the social media platforms at the time were not sharing those messages. During her time as Prime Minister, she didn't only have the Christchurch incident, she also had COVID-19. And while we can look back in hindsight, what happened in New Zealand from 2020 to 2022, New Zealand's COVID stance, which was to lock down New Zealand and draw up the moat and not let people in, created an opportunity for us to manage effectively for our community's COVID-19. So while we did lose people, we did it in such a way that everybody originally were committed to having their vaccinations, to being safe. And as a result of her actions, New Zealand today, during the COVID crisis, is still seen as a world leader. And the last thing that I'd like to touch on today is cultural heritage. So as we know throughout the world, it's really important that we as Indigenous people are heard. In 1975, New Zealand passed an act which allowed the Māori language, which was the language I talked to you first, to actually be recognised. Now, most people around the world know us because we have this amazing sports rugby team called the All Blacks that does the haka on many occasions. But perhaps what you don't know is that the haka is not only done in sports. It is done when people die. It is done when people celebrate. Or like yesterday in New Zealand, where we had the biggest protest march since New Zealand was born, there were haka as people went to Parliament to actually say, listen to us, we don't agree with your stance. And the best thing of all, nobody was arrested. It was soft power in action, and it was cited on the world stage. So when we look back at a funny little country that lives right at the end of the world, we can learn some lessons for all of us on actually what soft power is. Soft power is about connection. Soft power is about communities actually having their voices heard, and soft power is about communities taking action and governments listening to that action. Now, I know that right now we have 170 conflicts in the world which is worse at any other time. But if we worry about what we can actually influence, our families, our communities, our larger communities, and tell the stories that they deserve to be heard, then soft power will become a reality for all. Thank you very much.